I have to give you my bona fides. I was actually a farmer in New Hampshire. That's one of those little states up in the top right corner. We actually have a coastline. We're very proud of our 18 miles of Atlantic coast in New Hampshire. That's in the United States. Canada's a little further north. Thanks for clarifying that for everybody here. I love cattle. I've done it. I've been there. It's great. It's hard to give it up. It was hard to give it up and move to DC. They don't let you have cattle there. There's a lot of grass that could be eaten there, I can tell you that. But thinking about how to make money doing what you want to do is really about assessing yourself accurately and knowing what you're good at, and particularly what's your capacity for self-discipline, for deferred gratification, to be able to say, I'm going to spend money in a certain way and I got to save enough to be able to get through that long cycle of when you buy in calves and when you sell calves, or how long it takes for you to get an animal from being on a calf that's a heifer that's bred to being a calf on the ground. A lot of the young farmers think in terms of how much of this stuff they want. If I only had 300 acres, if I only had a 300 horsepower tractor, if I only had 300 cows, because the guy next door has 200, then I'd be better than him. And it's kind of a misleading way to measure success. And I know when you sit down and you talk to your fellow cattlemen, it's easy to start out saying, well, how big's your herd, how many acres you have, and you're into this kind of conversation, which I hope you don't mistake for a measurement of success. Because really success is about putting money in your pocket so you can have choices. If you don't have money in your pocket, you have fewer choices. We all get that. But to plan ahead, to think about how much money you want in your pocket at the end of the year, specifically how much you intend to earn, is setting a goal that you're then going to be able to measure your performance against.
What about the beef industry? Okay. Last week, we blasted through another barrier, and it seems like almost every week now we continue to do this, but we sold fat cattle last week on the 5-area weighted average for $162.86. Commodity grain-fed cattle, $162.86. You know, when we busted through 130, we thought that was something. We busted through 140, busted through 150, and boy, it didn't take long to bust through 160. Okay? I don't know where we're going from here, but that's where we were. USDA choice box beef set a new record of $259 per hundredweight, and select at $256. So we are truly in uncharted territory. We have not been here before. You can take all the old historical cattle price cycles and throw them absolutely out the window, folks. They do not apply anymore. National Cattle Herd Inventory. Okay, this is very, very important, because this tells us a lot about where we are headed in the near future and over the next 5 to 10 years. We continue to decline, okay? All cattle and calves, and this is the most recent National Cattle Inventory, 95 million head. That's down 3% from this time last year. Beef cows, 29.7 million head, down 3%. Dairy cows, that's the only category that we actually had any increase in. Okay? Dairy cattle, 1% increase. Beef heifers, this is what's telling us if we're rebuilding the National Cow Herd Inventory. All heifers, 14.9 million, down 5%. Beef replacement heifers, down 2%. Okay? Steers, 13.5 million, down 4%. Again, this is the majority of what we're slaughtering, right? Fat cattle. The 2014 calf crop is projected to be down 1% from last year, down 2% from 2012 at 33.6 million head. So does it look like we're building numbers anytime soon? No. Okay? Now we continue to set all of these record price highs, but at the same time, you know, and we're cattle producers, so we're sort of enjoying that right now and enjoying the profit taking, but we sell to somebody, and the ultimate customer, we can never forget this, the ultimate customer is the consumer. And at some point, there's going to be some screaming, okay? There's going to be some severe price resistance. And we have to understand that and realize that. Now, we're not seeing a lot of it yet, okay? Consumers are buying $6, $7, $8, and even $9 hamburger with abandon right now, okay? They're doing it. But at some point, there's going to be some severe price resistance. Another issue that we're facing right now, many of you have heard about this, the waters of the USA deal. You know, the EPA and U.S. Army Corps of Engineers is proposing to expand this waters of the U.S. rule, and that can have a profound impact on each and every one of us and how we do business on a daily basis. China just very recently announced that they're reopening beef exports from Brazil. They had shut those down in 2012 due to a case of BSE in Brazil, but now they've reopened it. That will impact export markets in some form or fashion for us. Okay? We just have to wait and see exactly what's going to happen there. And then we're constantly challenged. There's consistently, and there's been very recently, a handful of, quote, research reports that have come out that basically state cattle are bad, get them off the land, they're terrible for the environment. Okay? We know that's not true, but yet we have a lot of this, again, quote, research that's coming out and say they're harmful and they need to be removed. Okay, so what about the grass-fed sector? That's the beef industry as a whole. What are we doing in the grass-fed sector? Well, first of all, if we look at the Mintel Red Meat Report, we find that grass-fed beef now accounts to close to 6% of all beef sales in the major metro areas of the U.S. And in that same report, okay, the importance of grass-fed beef, both in terms of being grass-fed on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being not important, 10 being very important, grass-fed aspect was ranked a 7.2, the impact on environment a 7.5, the fact that it's hormone and antibiotic free right at an 8, and taste 8.7. So we're enjoying some very good consumer feedback with our product. They also found that 43% had purchased grass-fed or locally raised beef. Okay? And that rose again last year, and it's rising again this year. Again, and many of you have seen this before, but in 1998, just to give you a snapshot of where we've been and where we've come, there were very few serious grass-fed beef producers in the U.S., no more than $5 million in domestic retail value. It was an industry in its infancy. It was thought of by most as nothing but a fad that would quickly go away, and little attention was paid to it by the other sectors of the industry. However, by 2013, there were more than $2.5 billion worth of grass-fed beef sold in the U.S. That's a combination of both domestically produced and imported grass-fed beef. There are now more than 3,000 producers involved nationwide. It is growing at a 25 to 30% rate annually, and that's over the last 10 years. Okay? It's been quite steady. Okay, we've done a number of studies over the last 2 to 3 years. Michigan State, Dr. Jason Roundtree there has been doing a lot of work, and we've done a lot of case studies and so forth, looking at some economic and production data. And here's what we have found, that on average, across most grass-fed beef finishers in the U.S., and this is for finishing, okay? This is not for total cow-calf and everything else. This is feeder to finish production. It's taken an average of 0.8 to 1.2 acres per head to finish a grass-fat steer. However, we know that there is more than enough available acres to finish 30 million plus head in the U.S. annually. Jim Garish has calculated that in the Intermountain region of the U.S. alone, we can finish over 20 million head of grass fats annually. Okay? Skilled grass finishers have been netting from $300 to $500 plus per acre, and we're finding that most who are participatory in this sector are using grazing methodologies and management practices that allow us to build rather than deplete our soils. And when you look at the value of soil organic matter, for every 1% that we add, we're adding $750 per acre in nutrients to that soil that we don't have to add through inorganic fertilizers and other sources. And this is what we're after. You know, we're trying to satisfy that end-use customer, the consumer. So we want to be able to produce a high-quality product on a consistent basis that's going to satisfy those consumers and allow them to have a very pleasurable eating experience.
Today we eat as a nation half of our food away from home. And so if we're really going to address the health challenge of our society, think about working with chefs in institutions, in restaurants, the people that are bringing the food to people's plates today. In a lot of ways, they've stepped into mom's old apron, if you want to call it that. But they're the ones that are creating the diets of the future. And I think the chef community, from some of my other experience and work, they're the ones that are really tuning in to, if you're going to change the people's health through diet, that there's a role for them. We've put a lot of information in front of you tonight, and here's a quote from a biologist. He's actually the world's most renowned ant expert, if you didn't recognize the name, E.O. Wilson. We're drowning in information while starving for wisdom. The world henceforth will be run by synthesizers, people able to put together the right information in the right time, thinking critically about it, and making important choices wisely. And I know from just being on the tour, that's why a lot of you are here. You're taking in a lot of information, but then you got to go home and synthesize it, turn it into the opportunity. And I just want to encourage you to do that and make those wise choices. There's a lot of opportunity in this space. Another ancient, timeless piece of wisdom, and I've had this hang above my desk for the 13 years I've been doing this business of helping people create healthier food systems. When you have eaten and are satisfied, praise the Lord of God for the good land He has given you, from Deuteronomy 8. And it's interesting that the word is land. It doesn't say anything about tractor or shovel or anything else, so it really does get all back to the land and being good stewards of the land as we go forward. So I really appreciate the conversation here and a lot of the work that's happening on land. All the best as you do that. Thanks all, and have a great day. A great conference.